I'm 60 years old, and I need to tell you something I'm ashamed of every single day. My husband Raymond died 8 months ago. A stroke, right at the kitchen table. In the morning he was eating oatmeal. By noon he was gone. We were married for 38 years. 38 years is more than half my life, more years than I ever lived without him. He was part of every morning, every evening, every decision, every day. And when he died, I didn't break. I was supposed to break. Everyone expected it. The kids came that same day. My son took a week off work. My daughter slept in my living room for the first 10 days. The neighbor women brought casseroles and pies. Everyone said the same things. Be strong. We're here. He would have wanted that. I nodded. I accepted the food. I wore black. I did everything a widow is supposed to do. But inside, something else was happening. Something I cannot tell a single living person. The morning after the funeral, I woke up at 6. Like always, the body remembers. 38 years, 6 in the morning every day. I lay in bed and listened to the silence. His side of the bed made no sound, no snoring, no alarm clock he set for 6:10, even though he always woke up before it. No footsteps to the bathroom, no coughing. Silence. And I thought, I don't have to get up. Not because I was grieving, not because I had no strength, but because for the first time in 38 years, no one was expecting breakfast at 7. Raymond ate oatmeal every morning at exactly 7, not 7:15, not 6:45, 7, with 2 spoonfuls of honey in the white bowl, not the blue one, the white one. If breakfast was 10 minutes late, he didn't yell. He just sat at the table and said nothing. But that silence was louder than any shout. It filled the entire kitchen. It said, "You're failing. You're falling behind. You're not doing your job." And I learned oatmeal at 7, every day, no exceptions. Even when I was sick, even when I hadn't slept all night, even the morning after my mother died, oatmeal at 7. That morning after the funeral, I came down to the kitchen at 8. 8. I can't remember the last time I was in the kitchen at 8 morning. It was like walking into a room that had always been locked. I put the kettle on, not the coffee maker, the kettle. Raymond only drank coffee, black, no sugar. I bought his favorite brand for 38 years. I can't remember the last time I bought tea for myself. I found a box of green tea in the back of the cabinet. My daughter brought it a year ago. It sat there untouched. I made the tea. I sat down at the table, in his seat. I had never sat in his seat. 38 years. That was his place. By the window, facing the yard. The best seat at the table. I always sat with my back to the window. Always. I sat in his place. I looked out the window. I saw the yard he saw every morning, and I thought, it's beautiful here. I didn't know it was this beautiful. And I laughed, not from joy, not from relief, from the absurdity, from the fact that it took me 38 years and a funeral to sit by a window and drink a cup of tea. And then I went quiet, because I realized I was laughing the day after I buried my husband, and something went cold inside me. What is wrong with me? That question, it hasn't left. It has lived inside me for 8 months, every day. What is wrong with me? Why don't I cry? Why don't I feel bad? Why do I feel lighter? I need to tell you who Raymond was, not to accuse him, but so you understand why I feel what I feel. Raymond was not cruel. He didn't hit. He didn't insult. He didn't lock doors. He didn't control the money. He didn't track where I went. He just took up all the space. All the air in the house was his. Every decision, his. What we ate, he decided. Where we went, he decided. When we went to bed, he decided. What channel we watched, he decided. When a conversation was over, he decided. Not with orders, not with threats, with mood. If I suggested something he didn't like, he didn't say no. He just changed. Went silent. His face turned to stone. The atmosphere in the house thickened, and I understood. I had said the wrong thing, and I backed down every time. I backed down so often that after 10 years, I stopped suggesting anything at all. Why suggest when the answer was always the same? His silence, which meant no. The kids never saw it. To them, Dad was strict but fair, quiet but dependable. He went to their games. He paid for college. He fixed our daughter's car. They saw a father. I saw a husband. Those were two different people. I remember one evening. I was 43. The kids were at friends' houses. We were sitting in the living room. I said, "Raymond, maybe we could go somewhere, just the two of us, to the coast, for the weekend." He looked at me and said, "Why?" One word, "Why?" Not rudely, not with irritation, just why? As if the very idea of spending a weekend with me required justification. I said, "Just because. I'd like a change of scenery." He said, "I'm fine right here," and turned on the television. We never went anywhere. Not that time, not after. In 38 years, we never once went to the coast. Never once took a vacation alone together. Not once. But there is one day I remember more clearly than all the others. I was 52. I had an attack, a sharp pain in my abdomen. In the middle of the night, I woke up and couldn't straighten my body. I touched Raymond's shoulder. I said, "I feel bad. I feel really bad. Maybe I need to go to the hospital." He turned over, looked at the clock, 2:40 in the morning, and said, "Let's wait until morning. If it doesn't pass, we'll go." And he turned back over and fell asleep. I lay beside him for 3 hours, awake. The pain didn't stop. I lay there counting the minutes, and I wasn't thinking about the pain. I was thinking, if it were him, I would already be behind the wheel. I would already be halfway to the hospital. I wouldn't ask. I would just go. And he slept. In the morning, he woke up at 6:10, looked at me and said, "So how is it?" "Better." It wasn't better. He drove me to the hospital. Gallstones. They admitted me. Surgery 2 days later. Raymond came once, brought a bag of my things, sat for 20 minutes, said, "Everything's fine at home," stood up, left, 20 minutes. When I came home 4 days later, the kitchen was full of dirty dishes from all 4 days. He hadn't washed a single plate, not because he couldn't, because it wasn't his job. I walked into the house after surgery, stood at the sink, and started washing his dishes. And in that moment, that exact moment, something inside me went out, quietly, without a sound, like a light bulb that doesn't burn out with a pop, but just slowly fades to dark. I didn't leave. I stayed another 8 years. But the woman who once asked him to go to the coast, she was gone. She went out at the sink with someone else's dirty dishes on the 4th day after surgery. I stopped asking, just as I had stopped suggesting, just as I had stopped humming, just as I had stopped wearing red, because one day he looked at my red dress and said, "What is that you're wearing?" And that was enough. I wore gray, beige, brown, 38 years of neutral colors, 38 years of silence in which his comfort was the only thing that mattered. And then he died, and I was alone in a house that had been built entirely around him. His chair, his place at the table, his coffee in the cabinet, his channel on the television, his temperature on the thermostat. The first week I didn't touch anything. The second week I moved the chair. The third week I changed the channel. The fourth week I raised the temperature by 2 degrees. And every single time, I felt a sting of guilt, as if he were watching, as if he were about to say, "Why did you do that?" But he won't say it, because he's gone. And this is what I can't escape. It feels easier. It's easier without him. It's easier to wake up. It's easier to breathe. It's easier to exist in my own kitchen. And I hate myself for it. Because he wasn't a monster. He was just a husband, an ordinary husband of his generation, who believed that a wife meant silence, order, and breakfast on time. And I let that become my life. My daughter visited a month ago. We were drinking tea in the kitchen. She looked at me and said, "Mom, you look different somehow." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "I don't know. Calmer, maybe even younger." I smiled and changed the subject because I couldn't tell her the truth. Couldn't say, "I look younger because I'm finally living." Because for the first time in 38 years, I don't wake up with a weight on my chest. Because for the first time, I sit in his seat by the window and drink my tea. And I don't have to be invisible. How do I tell my daughter that? How do I tell her that her father, the man she loves and mourns, was the reason I forgot who I was? I won't tell her, ever. People ask, "How are you coping?" I say, "One day at a time." They nod. They think I mean the grief. I mean the freedom. I bought a red dress last month for the first time in 20 years. I stood in the fitting room and looked at myself, a 60-year-old woman in a red dress, and I cried, not from sadness, because I saw in the mirror a woman I had been hiding for 38 years, and she was still there, older, tired, but alive. I'm ashamed of every morning I wake up feeling peace, ashamed of the tea instead of coffee, of the red dress, of humming in the kitchen, of rearranging the furniture, of playing my own music. I'm ashamed that I'm living, truly living, for the first time, and I'm ashamed that for that to happen, he had to die. I loved Raymond. I think I loved him, but I don't miss the life we had. I miss the idea, what it could have been if he had looked at me just once and said, "What do you want?" He never asked, and I never said. And here I am at 60, sitting in his seat by the window, drinking green tea, wearing a red dress, looking at a yard I didn't see for 38 years, even though it was right there every morning. And if you're living right now in a silence that doesn't belong to you, in a house where your voice is quieter than someone else's silence, I won't tell you to leave. I won't tell you to be strong. I'll only say one thing. Don't wait for a funeral to sit by the window.